Financial Argument. Follow us on YouTube.
And with us today, a new guest, the president and director of K92 Mining, Brian Slezarchuk. Brian, thank you so much for joining us today.
Elijah, thanks for having me on.
All right. Well, I'd first like to discuss a little bit about your company, K92 Mining. The big news right now is you just went public in May, but you're already starting production. And also an economic study came out showing your rate of growth. Can you talk about this?
Sure, absolutely, Elijah. We're really proud of the execution so far of the business plan by the technical team on site on our K92 Gold project. We came to trade publicly on May 25th. At that time, we were fully funded to restart gold production at the project, but because of strong institutional demand, we've raised a further $26 million since that initial public trade date in May. We have a great balance sheet, and really importantly to the company, in the past week, we've had two major announcements. First off, we announced the commencement of gold production at our first gold deposit, a deposit called Irumafimpa. We followed that up today with a news release announcing that we've completed a preliminary economic assessment on the second deposit, which is only 700 meters away, called Cora. And these Cora numbers were very substantial in terms of allowing investors visibility in terms of our production growth profile. In the first year of production at Irumafimpa, we're targeting to produce approximately 52,000 ounces of gold, approximately in the $650 per ounce range. However, what the Cora results indicate is that we'll be able to target 108,000 ounces per annum with all-in sustaining costs of approximately $619 an ounce. The study results also indicate positive cash flow of $558 million over 9 years, an internal rate of return of 113%, giving it a net present value based on a 5% discount rate of $415 million, and that's $415 million US. All of this with an initial capital cost at Cora of less than $14 million. So you can see we're very excited. I think it's important to note that initial capital cost is less capital than we have on hand in our treasury right now.
Now, I'd like to discuss a little bit about investing in gold. Can you touch on why, in your opinion, gold is a good investment right now?
Absolutely. I think for thousands of years, gold has been a true store of wealth. It's acted as a hedge against uncertain economic times. It's acted as a hedge against an inflationary or hyperinflationary environment. And gold has long represented this inherent value. However, what we've seen over the past decades is a group of central bankers in their wisdom who have ignored gold as a store of wealth. And remember, it's been a true store of wealth for thousands of years, and have created an environment where we rely on a fiat currency. And these paper currencies are promises to pay, are promises to deliver value, but really have very little backing them up. What we've seen through central bank collusion and the collusion of large governments around the world through a combination of monetary policy that has taken us now to a zero interest rate or negative interest rate environment, huge amounts of fiscal stimulus in the quantitative easing infinity program that we see around the world. Well, these things in combination and during sustained periods of time, it just won't end well. And I think that we're in danger worldwide of a serious financial collapse. And when you look at the last collapse that we were on the brink of in 2008, the central banks and the big governments had a lot of ammunition at their disposal. They were able to dramatically drop interest rates. They were able to inject trillions of dollars into the system fiscally through wild deficit spending sprees. But this time, they don't have that type of ammunition because rates are already at negative levels in many parts of the world. They're essentially at zero here in North America. And gold, I think, acts as a great store of value and also a hedge against this type of potential financial collapse.
Now, I know you've said before that the Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns collapses that we saw in the 2008 crisis will look like a walk in the park compared to what we're going to see in the future. Can you talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there are similarities between 2008 and today. We see Lehman Brothers now mentioned in the same breath as Deutsche Bank. But again, what I see as very different is that the ammunition that the central banks and governments have has been blown, and there's very little when the tide turns in a big way here, whether it be global real estate markets, global stock markets, etc. When things start to get ugly, I just don't know what the central bankers could possibly have up their sleeve next. And the scary thing is, I don't think they know what the game plan is either. And that just doesn't end well for people that have the bulk of their assets in fiat paper currencies. So I agree that it could be, it very well could be uglier than 2008. And this is why precious metals just have necessitate a real close look from investors that want to protect true value. At the same time, I see just a dramatic shift geopolitically and financially happening in the world. And a good example of that is the Chinese influence now in the SDR basket. We have a global environment where the Chinese, the Russians, the Indians are gobbling up as much gold as they can get their hands on, whereas our esteemed central bankers seem to have lost sight of the fact that it's a true store of wealth. A great example of this, and I'm embarrassed to tell the story, is that the Canadian government has now announced that they've given up all their gold. They don't own any gold, but the central bankers say, don't worry that we don't own gold as a nation because we have tens of billions. We have 50 billion US dollars on hand that provides intrinsic value. Well, this is one intrinsically worthless fiat currency propping up another such currency. And to me, that's the real definition of insanity.
Now, when it comes to investing in gold, what is your perspective on what form of gold people should invest in? You know, there are a lot of options. There's physical gold, there's exchange-traded funds, and there's also mining stocks. What is your perspective on what is the best kind of gold to invest in?
Traditionally, in times of a rising gold market, in times that gold bullion rises in price, you traditionally see outperformance by gold equities. And when I talk about gold equities, I'm not talking about exploration stage companies that have a great concept but don't necessarily have gold in the ground. I'm also not talking about companies that have gold in the ground but neither the financing nor the concept as to how to get it out of the ground. I'm talking about gold producers. And K92 is in a very unique situation in that we're not only in gold production, but we've also shown visibility on our plans to increase that production. We're targeting to be in the lowest quartile in terms of costs per ounce. We purchased this project from Barrick Gold, the world's largest gold mining company. And by purchasing this project from Barrick, we inherited or acquired an existing mill, existing underground mine, development at the mill and the mine, a paved highway leading up to the property We've got great access from that highway. We've got a 300-person camp. We've got hydroelectric power on a dedicated line from a local hydroelectric station. This infrastructure was substantial. Barrick Gold purchased this project in 2007 for $141 million, subsequently invested in excess of $120 million advancing the project. And because we acquired an existing mine, existing mill, we were able to very quickly come in, enhance the facilities, refurbish the facilities, and announce within 6 months of going public, announce the actual start of gold production. And that's the type of situation that I think investors that are bullish on gold should definitely look at and consider and do their due diligence on.
If our viewers are interested in learning more about your company, where can they find more information?
We have a website that provides a whole lot of information, www.k9mining.com. So that's K92mining.com. Also, there's a great host of information on the CEDAR site in Canada. The stock trades on the TSX Venture Exchange in Canada under the symbol KNT, and in the U.S. under the symbol KNTNF.
All right. Well, Brian, thank you so much for joining us today. Before we let you go, did you want to share with the viewers any last thoughts you had?
Well, I just think that it makes sense for everybody to take a look at precious metals, how they fit into a comprehensive investment and financial planning endeavor. And if you do that and you are bullish on gold, I think K92 provides potentially an opportunity with a lot of upside and an experienced management team that's done it again and again in this sector over a number of decades.
Once again, Brian Slazarchuk from K92 Mining, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.